My name is Valerie. I'm 27 and work as a graphic designer in Boston. My whole life changed with one phone call. It was midnight when my mom called asking if I was alone. My heart dropped thinking someone had died. Instead, she told me something unbelievable. I wasn't her daughter. I was her niece. My biological mother was her younger sister, who got pregnant, disappeared, and left me with just a note. Mom raised me as her own, never telling me the truth until now. Today, my biological mother wants to meet me. Before I tell you how my entire world shattered that night, drop a comment where you're watching from, hit like, and subscribe to join me through this journey of discovering who I really am. It was just after midnight on a Tuesday. I remember checking the time on my laptop as I worked through a design project for one of my biggest clients. The deadline was the next morning, and I had that familiar mixture of creative energy and panic that always accompanies last-minute work. My apartment was quiet, except for the low hum of music from my headphones and the occasional click of my mouse. When my phone lit up with Mom's name, my first thought was that something was wrong. Jennifer, the woman I'd always known as my mother, never called this late. She was the type who went to bed at 9 and woke at 5, a routine she'd maintained for as long as I could remember. I pulled off my headphones and answered with immediate concern in my voice. "Mom, is everything okay?" There was a pause on the other end, just long enough to make my stomach tighten with anxiety. "Valerie, honey," she said, her voice sounding strange. Strained. "Are you alone right now?" That question only intensified my worry. I looked around my empty apartment as if confirming what I already knew. "Yes, I'm alone." "What's going on? Is it Dad? Is his heart acting up again?" "My father." David had been diagnosed with a minor heart condition last year. Nothing serious, the doctors had said, but it was enough to make any unusual call cause for alarm. No, your father is fine," she said quickly. "He's asleep, but I need to tell you something important. Can you sit down?" I was already sitting at my desk, but I pushed back from my computer anyway, as if physically creating space for whatever news was coming. "I'm sitting. Mom, you're scaring me. What's going on?" Her breath came through the phone, shaky and uncertain. "I've been trying to figure out how to tell you this for so long. I thought I never would. But circumstances have changed, and you need to know the truth." "The truth about what?" I asked, my mind racing through possibilities. Was someone sick? Were they getting divorced? Was there some family secret I didn't know about? I had no idea how close that last guess was. "Valerie, this is very difficult for me," she continued, her voice breaking slightly. "But I need to tell you that I'm not your mother. Biologically, I mean. I'm your aunt." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. The words didn't make sense, like she was speaking a language I almost understood, but couldn't quite translate. "What are you talking about?" I laughed nervously. "Is this some kind of joke?" "No, sweetheart, it's not a joke." Her voice was deadly serious now. "Your biological mother is my younger sister, Sophia." I had heard stories about Sophia, my mother's estranged sister, who had moved across the country before I was born. There were barely any pictures of her in our family albums, and she was rarely mentioned. I'd always assumed there had been some falling out, but I'd never pressed for details. "That's not possible," I said, feeling oddly detached from my body, as if I were floating above the scene watching someone else receive this news. "You're my mother. I have your eyes. Everyone says so." "You have Sophia's eyes," she corrected gently. "We're sisters. We share some features." I gripped my phone tighter, feeling as though if I loosened my grip, I might lose my connection to reality entirely. "I don't understand. Why would you? How could you?" "Sophia got pregnant when she was in college." Jennifer explained, her words coming faster now, as if she feared losing her courage. She was 22. She hid it from everyone except me. And then, after you were born, she left you with me and disappeared. There was a note. She said she couldn't be a mother. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. The room seemed to spin slightly, and I closed my eyes to steady myself. So, my entire life has been a lie. For 27 years, you've been lying to me. Does Dad know? Yes, David knows. He's always known. We made the decision together to raise you as our own. We love you, Valerie. That's never been a lie. You are our daughter in every way that matters. But her words felt hollow against the roaring in my ears. The implications of what she was saying were still forming in my mind, like puzzle pieces slowly clicking into place, revealing a picture I never wanted to see. Why are you telling me this now? I managed to ask, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. After all this time, why now? There was another pause longer this time. Because Sophia has made contact. After 27 years, she wants to meet you. The words hit me like a physical blow. My biological mother, a woman who had abandoned me as a newborn, now wanted to casually walk into my life as if she hadn't been absent for nearly 3 decades. No, I said firmly. No way. I don't want to meet her. How dare she? How dare both of you? Valerie, please, my mother, no, my aunt, pleaded. This is a lot to take in over the phone. I wanted to tell you in person, but I couldn't keep this from you any longer. Sophia is coming to New York this weekend. She's hoping to meet you. I felt tears streaming down my face, though I hadn't realized I'd started crying. I can't process this right now. I need to think. I understand, but please come home tomorrow. Let's talk about this face to face. There's so much more to explain. I wanted to refuse to hang up and pretend this conversation had never happened, but beneath my shock and anger, questions were already forming. Who was my father? Why had Sophia abandoned me? What did she want now after all these years? Fine, I said coldly. I'll drive up tomorrow, but I'm not promising anything beyond that. Thank you, sweetheart. I love you. That's never changed, and it never will. I ended the call without saying it back, something I'd never done before. I sat in the stillness of my apartment, staring at nothing, feeling the foundations of my identity crumbling beneath me. Who was I, if not Jennifer and David Henderson's daughter? What parts of me came from this stranger named Sophia? Had my entire life been built on a carefully constructed fiction? I tried to return to my work, but the design on my screen now seemed trivial, disconnected from the earthquake that had just shattered my reality. I sent a quick email to my client requesting a 1-day extension, citing a family emergency. It wasn't a lie. It was perhaps the most honest thing about my family I'd ever known. Sleep was impossible that night. Every time I closed my eyes, my mind would race with questions, memories, and doubts. I found myself scrolling through photos on my phone, studying pictures of my family with new eyes. Holiday gatherings, birthday celebrations, family vacations, all those memories now felt tainted, as if viewed through a distorted lens. I pulled up an old photo of Jennifer, David, and me at my college graduation. We were smiling arms around each other, looking every bit the proud parents and their accomplished daughter. Had they been thinking about my biological mother that day? Had they worried she might suddenly appear and destroy the careful fiction they'd maintained? And what about the rest of the family? My grandparents, now both deceased. Had they known my cousins? Who else had been in on this elaborate deception? By 3 a.m, I couldn't bear to be alone with my thoughts anymore. I called Taylor, my best friend since college, knowing she was probably asleep, but needing to hear a voice untainted by lies. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice groggy with sleep. "Val, what's wrong? Are you okay?" The concern in her voice broke something in me, and I found myself sobbing before I could form words. "Val, you're scaring me," Taylor said, sounding fully awake now. "Talk to me. What happened?" Between sobs, I managed to tell her everything. The midnight call, the revelation about Jennifer being my aunt, the sister who'd abandoned me, the upcoming meeting. "Holy shit," Taylor whispered when I finished. "Val, I don't even know what to say. That's a lot to process." "I feel like I'm losing my mind," I admitted. "Like everything I thought I knew about myself is a lie." "Not everything," Taylor said firmly. "You're still Valerie. You're still the amazing, talented, kind person I've known for years. That hasn't changed." Her words provided a small comfort, a tiny island of stability in the sea of uncertainty I was drowning in. "Are you going to meet her? Your biological mother?" Taylor asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to tell her to go to hell, but another part needs answers. I'm driving to my parents, to Jennifer and David's, tomorrow. I guess I'll decide after I hear the whole story." We talked until the sky began to lighten outside my window. Taylor offered to come with me, but I declined. This was something I needed to face on my own, at least initially. After we hung up, I packed a small bag with enough clothes for a few days. I had no idea how long I'd be staying, but I wanted to be prepared. I called my supervisor at the design agency and requested emergency personal leave, offering no details beyond a family crisis. To my relief, she was understanding and assured me my projects would be covered. By 7 in the morning, I was on the road driving north from Boston toward the small town in upstate New York where I'd grown up. The 4-hour drive gave me more time with my thoughts swinging between anger, confusion, and a deep, aching sadness. 2 hours into the drive, I pulled into a roadside diner needing coffee and a moment to collect myself. I sat in a booth by the window, staring at the untouched pancakes I'd ordered out of habit more than hunger. My mind kept replaying moments from my childhood, searching for clues I might have missed. The time I'd asked why I didn't look much like my dad, and Mom had quickly said I took after her side of the family. The awkward silence that had fallen when I'd done a genetics project in high school and asked for family medical history. The odd expressions that sometimes crossed my parents' faces when someone commented on how much I resembled my mother. Had there been signs all along? Should I have somehow known? In the diner bathroom, I broke down again, locking myself in a stall and pressing my hands against my mouth to muffle the sobs. A middle-aged woman washing her hands asked if I was okay, and I managed a weak nod and a mumbled excuse about bad news from home. It wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. A family tradition, apparently. Back on the road, I found myself approaching my hometown with a strange sense of dread. The familiar landmarks. The old movie theater, the high school football field, the town square with its ancient oak trees. All looked the same, but I felt like a stranger returning to a place I'd only visited in dreams. When I finally pulled into the driveway of my childhood home, a modest 2-story colonial with blue shutters and a wraparound porch. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to grip the steering wheel for several minutes before I could trust myself to get out. Jennifer opened the door before I could knock. She looked like she hadn't slept either, her normally perfectly styled hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her eyes red-rimmed behind her glasses. "Valerie?" she said, reaching out as if to hug me, then stopping when she saw my expression. "Thank you for coming." I stepped past her into the house, the familiar smell of cinnamon and furniture polish hitting me with a wave of nostalgia that quickly soured into resentment. This house, these memories. How much of it had been real? Where's Dad? I asked, my voice cool and distant. He's at the hardware store, Jennifer replied, following me into the living room. He wanted to give us some time to talk first, but he'll be back soon. I set my bag down and stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, suddenly feeling like a guest rather than a daughter returning home. I think you should start from the beginning, I said. And this time, tell me everything. Jennifer gestured for me to sit on the sofa while she disappeared briefly into the study. When she returned, she was carrying a worn cardboard box, which she placed carefully on the coffee table between us. I've kept this hidden in my filing cabinet for 27 years, she said, her fingers lingering on the lid. I always knew this day might come, but I prayed it wouldn't. She opened the box and began to take out its contents, yellowed documents, old photographs, and what looked like a handwritten letter in a sealed plastic bag. Sophia was 22 when she got pregnant. Jennifer began, her voice steadier now, as if she'd rehearsed this story. She was in her final year at NYU studying literature. Our parents were very strict, very religious. You never met them. They passed before you were born, but they would have been devastated by an unmarried pregnancy. She handed me a photograph I'd never seen before. It showed two young women, arms around each other, smiling at the camera. I recognized a younger Jennifer immediately, but the other woman was a stranger to me, and yet strangely familiar. We had the same eyes, the same high cheekbones, the same way of tilting our heads slightly when we smiled. That's Sophia, Jennifer said softly, watching my reaction. This was taken about a year before you were born. I stared at the image, trying to reconcile this smiling young woman with the person who had abandoned me. Who was my father? Jennifer's expression tightened. A professor at the university. He was married, much older. When Sophia told him about the pregnancy, he threatened to deny everything to ruin her academically if she tried to involve him. Does he know about me? I asked, still staring at the photograph. No, Sophia decided to keep the pregnancy secret from everyone except me. She moved in with me. I had an apartment in Brooklyn at the time. I was 26, working at a publishing house. She hid her pregnancy under loose clothing when she had to go out, but mostly she stayed in the apartment. She dropped out of her final semester, telling our parents she needed a mental health break. Jennifer pulled out more documents. Medical records from a clinic, prenatal vitamin prescriptions, a receipt for a crib. Sophia planned to give you up for adoption initially. She said she wasn't ready to be a mother, especially not as a single parent with no support from the father. But as the pregnancy progressed, she became more attached, more determined to keep you. She paused, pulling out another photograph. This one showed a very pregnant Sophia sitting by a window, her hand resting on her swollen belly, her expression pensive. You were born in my apartment, Jennifer continued. Sophia didn't want to go to a hospital where there would be records. We had arranged for a midwife, but you came so quickly that I ended up delivering you myself. I tried to imagine this scene, my birth in a Brooklyn apartment with only my aunt to help bring me into the world. It seemed surreal, like someone else's story. The first few days were okay, Jennifer said, her voice growing softer. Sophia was exhausted but seemed bonded to you. She named you Valerie after our grandmother. But then she started showing signs of what I now know was severe postpartum depression. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep, even when you were sleeping. She would stare at you with this terrified expression, like she was afraid she might hurt you. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. I was worried about both of you, but I didn't know what to do. I suggested she see a doctor, but she refused. Then on your 5th day, I woke up and found you in your crib crying. Sophia was gone. She reached into the box and carefully removed the plastic-covered letter, handling it as if it were a fragile artifact. This was on the kitchen table. She handed it to me. Through the plastic, I could see handwriting that looked almost like mine, another unsettling similarity between me and the woman who'd given birth to me. Jennifer, I read aloud, my voice trembling. I can't do this. I'm not meant to be a mother. I look at her and feel nothing but panic. She deserves better than me. You've always been the responsible one, the good one. You'll know what to do. Please don't try to find me. I'm sorry. Sophia. The words were like a physical blow. 5 sentences to explain why a mother would abandon her newborn child. 5 sentences that had altered the course of my entire life. What did you do? I asked, setting the letter down as if it might burn me. I panicked at first, Jennifer admitted. I called in sick to work and spent the day caring for you, hoping Sophia would come back. By the next day, when there was still no word from her, I had to make a decision. She took a deep breath. I called David. We had been dating for about a year at that point. I told him everything and asked for his advice. He came over immediately, and when he saw you, Jennifer smiled faintly. He fell in love with you on the spot. It was his idea that we should raise you ourselves. But how? I asked. Legally, I mean. There would have been questions, paperwork. And Jennifer looked uncomfortable. David had connections in the city clerk's office. We created a birth certificate listing us as your parents. It wasn't legal, but we were desperate. We moved upstate shortly after to this house where nobody knew us. We told everyone I'd been pregnant, but keeping it private due to previous miscarriages. I sat back, trying to absorb the enormity of what she was saying. My entire legal identity was based on falsified documents. Was my social security card even valid? My passport, my whole life was built on a foundation of fraud. Did you ever try to find her? I asked. Jennifer nodded. For the first few years, I hired a private investigator, but Sophia had simply vanished. She'd withdrawn her remaining money from her bank account and disappeared. The PI found traces of her in California, then Canada, but the trail always went cold. Eventually, I stopped looking. I was afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid she'd come back and take you away, Jennifer admitted. By then, you were 3 or 4. You were our daughter in every way that mattered. The thought of losing you was unbearable. I processed this information, trying to imagine the fear she must have lived with, but it didn't erase the betrayal I felt. And now she wants to meet me, I said flatly. After 27 years of silence, she just expects to walk back into my life. Jennifer reached for my hand, but I pulled away. She found me through social media last month, she explained. She saw my profile in the comments of a family obituary online. Your great-aunt Martha's funeral announcement. She messaged me privately. I almost blocked her immediately, but curiosity got the better of me. So, you've been talking to her for a month without telling me. The betrayal cut deeper. I needed to understand her intentions, Jennifer defended. I needed to be sure she wasn't going to disrupt your life and then disappear again. We've exchanged emails. She's explained some of what happened after she left. And I prompted, anger rising again. And she's different now. She's married, living in Seattle. She has 2 other children. You have half-siblings, Valerie. She's been sober for 15 years. Sober? Jennifer nodded grimly. After she left, she developed substance abuse issues. She was homeless for a time. It's been a difficult road for her. Am I supposed to feel sorry for her? I snapped. She abandoned me and made you complicit in a lifetime of lies. No, Jennifer said quietly. You don't have to feel anything for her. You don't even have to meet her if you don't want to. But she's flying in tomorrow, staying at the hotel downtown. She's hoping you'll agree to see her, but she understands if you refuse. I stood up, needing to move to process the storm of emotions whirling inside me. Does Dad know you've told me? Yes, we decided together that it was time. He wanted to be here, but I thought it might be easier to hear it from just me first. I paced the living room, looking at the familiar family photos on the walls with new eyes. Who else knows? Who else has been lying to me my entire life? Jennifer looked down at her hands. Your grandparents never knew? They died believing you were their biological grandchild. A few people from the old days, my college roommate who knew Sophia David's friend at the clerk's office. No one in our current life knows the truth. I heard a car in the driveway and froze. A moment later, the front door opened, and David, the man I'd always called Dad, stepped into the hallway. He stopped when he saw me, his face a mixture of love and apprehension. Valerie, he said softly, I'm so sorry. For 27 years, this man had been my father in every way that mattered. He had taught me to ride a bike, helped me with my homework, walked me down the aisle at my cousin's wedding. He had no biological connection to me, and yet he had chosen me, had risked legal consequences to claim me as his daughter. I wanted to be angry with him too, but as he stood there, his eyes full of uncertainty, I felt my fury begin to crack. Dad, I said, and then I was in his arms, sobbing against his shoulder, like I was a little girl again. I'm still your dad, he whispered against my hair. Nothing will ever change that. But as I clung to him, I knew that everything had already changed. And there was still one more shock waiting for me, meeting the woman who had given me life, and then walked away without looking back. As David held me, Jennifer quietly left the room, giving us a moment alone. When my tears finally subsided, I pulled back and looked at the man who had raised me, searching his familiar face. Why didn't you ever tell me? I asked, my voice hoarse from crying. David led me to the couch, keeping one arm around my shoulders. At first, you were too young to understand. Then, as you grew older, it never seemed like the right time. The longer we waited, the harder it became to imagine telling you. He sighed heavily. And selfishly, I was afraid. Afraid you'd see me differently. Afraid you'd want to find your biological father instead. I would never... I started, but he shook his head. You don't know how you would have reacted, and neither did I. We made the decision we thought was best at the time, and then we were trapped by it. He squeezed my shoulder. I've never regretted having you as my daughter, Valerie. Not for a single day. Jennifer returned with a tray of tea, a peace offering of sorts. As she set it down, I noticed her hands were shaking. I called David from work, I said, suddenly remembering. He was supposed to be on a business trip. They exchanged a glance. I came home early, David explained. After Jennifer told you last night, we knew you'd have questions only both of us could answer. A new thought struck me. Wait, if you weren't on a business trip and you weren't at the hardware store earlier? I looked between them. Where were you this morning? Another uncomfortable glance. Jennifer answered. He was meeting with our lawyer. We wanted to understand the potential legal implications of all this coming to light. Legal implications. The reality of the situation hit me anew. You mean the fact that you falsified my birth certificate, that legally I might not even be who I think I am? The statute of limitations has passed for any criminal charges, David said quickly. But there could be complicated questions about your legal identity. We wanted to be prepared to protect you. Protect me, I repeated flatly. Like you've been protecting me all these years by lying? Jennifer flinched as if I'd slapped her. Valerie, please, we only ever wanted what was best for you. What's best for me would have been the truth, I stood up again, unable to stay still with the emotions churning inside me. Do you have any idea what this feels like? To find out your entire identity is based on a lie, that the people you trusted most in the world have been deceiving you since birth. We're still the same people who raised you, David said gently. We still love you exactly the same. But I'm not the same, I countered. Everything I thought I knew about myself has changed overnight. I turned to Jennifer. You said Sophia has other children, so I have half-siblings I've never met. Jennifer nodded. 2, a boy and a girl. They're younger, 14 and 12. I tried to imagine these unknown siblings' children who shared my blood but were strangers to me. Did they look like me? Did they know about my existence? Does her husband know about me? I asked. Yes, Jennifer confirmed. According to Sophia, he's been encouraging her to find you for years. She was too afraid, too ashamed of what she'd done. As she should be, I muttered. Valerie, David said carefully. I understand your anger, but there's something you should consider. When Sophia left you with Jennifer, she was suffering from severe postpartum depression, possibly psychosis. It doesn't excuse her actions, but it might help explain them. I shook my head, not ready to extend empathy to the woman who had abandoned me. What does she want from me now? After all this time, why reach out? She says she just wants to meet you, Jennifer replied. To explain in person, to apologize. And if I don't want to meet her, then that's your decision and we'll support you completely, David assured me. She's prepared for that possibility. I walked to the window looking out at the familiar backyard where I'd spent countless hours playing as a child. The treehouse David had built me was still there, weathered, but standing strong. I want to see the emails, I said, suddenly turning back to Jennifer. All the communication you've had with her. Jennifer hesitated only briefly before nodding. Of course. They're on my laptop. While she went to retrieve it, David approached me cautiously. Whatever you decide about meeting Sophia, I want you to know that nothing changes between us. You're my daughter. Period. I nodded, unable to speak around the lump in my throat. Despite my anger at the deception, I couldn't doubt the love in his eyes. Whatever legal documents might say this man was my father, in all the ways that truly mattered. Jennifer returned with her laptop and pulled up her email account. She turned the screen toward me and stepped back, giving me space. I scrolled through a month's worth of exchanges between Jennifer and the woman who had given birth to me. The first message was tentative, almost formal, from Sophia Winters to Jennifer Henderson. Subject, reaching out after all these years. Dear Jennifer, you may never want to hear from me again, and I would understand completely. It's taken me years to find the courage to write this email. I saw your name in the comments of Aunt Martha's obituary online, and I've been debating whether to contact you for weeks. I don't know if Valerie is still in your life. I don't know what you told her, or if she even knows I exist. But I need to try to make amends for what I did 27 years ago. I won't make excuses. What I did was unforgivable. I abandoned my newborn daughter and placed an impossible burden on you. Not a day has gone by that I haven't thought about her, about the choice I made. My life took many dark turns after I left. For many years, I was lost in addiction and despair. But I've been sober for 15 years now. I have a husband who knows everything about my past and has encouraged me to try to make peace with it. I have 2 children who know they have an older half-sister somewhere. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a response. But if there's any possibility that I could apologize to Valerie in person, I would be grateful for the chance. With deepest regrets and gratitude. Sophia. I read through all the subsequent emails, watching the evolution of their correspondence, from Jennifer's initial cold, protective responses to a more cautious exchange of information. Sophia had sent recent photos of herself with her family. A tall, bearded man who must be her husband, and 2 children who shared her dark hair and my eyes. In the most recent emails, they had arranged the details of Sophia's visit. She would be arriving tomorrow afternoon, staying for 3 days at the Riverside Hotel downtown. She had expressed hope that I would agree to meet her, but had repeatedly assured Jennifer that she would respect my decision either way. She seems, I struggled to find the right word. Remorseful, Jennifer supplied. Genuinely so, I think. I closed the laptop, my mind spinning with too many thoughts to process. I need some time, and I need to call Taylor. Jennifer nodded, looking relieved that I wasn't storming out. Of course. Your room is ready for you if you want to stay here. The thought of sleeping in my childhood bedroom surrounded by the artifacts of a life I now questioned was both comforting and disturbing. But I nodded. I'll stay, at least for tonight. As I climbed the familiar stairs to my old room, I felt the weight of decision pressing down on me. Should I meet the woman who had given me life and then abandoned me? Could I face her without my anger overwhelming me? And if I did meet her, what would I find? A stranger with my eyes. A cautionary tale. A missing piece of myself. I had less than 24 hours to decide. I spent most of that evening in my childhood bedroom. The walls still painted the soft lavender I'd chosen when I was 13. Sitting cross-legged on my bed, I video called Taylor, needing her steady presence as I sorted through the emotional wreckage. Have you decided if you're going to meet her? Taylor asked after I'd filled her in on everything I'd learned. I don't know, I admitted, picking at a loose thread on my old quilt. Part of me wants to tell her to go to hell, but another part needs answers, Taylor finished for me. That's completely understandable, Val. She's a missing piece of your story. But what if I don't like what I find out? What if she's terrible? Or what if she's actually great, and that somehow makes it worse that she gave me up? Taylor considered this. Would it help if you weren't alone? I could drive up tomorrow. Be there with you if you decide to meet her. The offer was tempting, but I shook my head. I need to do this myself, but thank you. I paused, then added, maybe you could come up this weekend, though I might need a friend after all this, whatever I decide. Done, Taylor promised. Just say the word and I'll be there. After we hung up, I found myself diving into research on my laptop, reading about abandonment trauma, adoption psychology, and the effects of family secrets. I wasn't sure if understanding the academic perspectives would help, but it gave me something to focus on besides my churning emotions. Around midnight, I heard a soft knock at my door. David stood there with a mug of hot chocolate, my childhood comfort drink. Thought you might need this, he said, offering the mug. You always wanted hot chocolate when you were upset as a kid, even in the middle of summer. I accepted it with a small smile, touched by the gesture and the memory. Thanks, Dad. He lingered in the doorway. Your mother, Jennifer, is pretty torn up about all this. She's afraid she's lost you. I sighed, blowing on the hot chocolate. I'm angry. I have a right to be angry, but I know she loves me. I'm not going to cut her out of my life if that's what she's worried about. Relief washed over his face. That means a lot. To both of us. He hesitated, then asked, Have you decided about Sophia? I took a sip of the chocolate, letting the familiar taste soothe me. I think I need to meet her. Not for her sake, but for mine. I have questions only she can answer. David nodded. We'll support whatever you need. If you want us there with you, or if you'd rather go alone, whatever you decide. I think I need to see her alone, at least at first. I said. But thank you. After he left, I found myself pulling out my birth certificate from my personal documents folder. I'd always kept it with my passport and social security card, never questioning its authenticity. Now I studied it with new eyes, wondering about the false information it contained. Jennifer Henderson and David Henderson listed as mother and father. A hospital in Syracuse named as my birthplace, though I'd actually been born in a Brooklyn apartment. My entire legal identity was built on this fiction. What did that mean for me now? Could there be consequences if the truth came out? I made a mental note to speak with a lawyer of my own once this immediate crisis had passed. The next morning, I came downstairs to find Jennifer making pancakes, another childhood comfort food. The familiar domestic scene felt surreal against the backdrop of revelations. "I thought you might want your favorite breakfast," she said tentatively, watching me from the corner of her eye as I poured myself coffee. "Thanks," I said, my voice neither warm nor cold. We were in a strange limbo. Not estranged, but not comfortable either. Sophia texted this morning. Jennifer mentioned flipping a pancake with practiced ease. "She's checked into the hotel. She said she's available whenever you're ready if you decide to meet her." I nodded, taking a seat at the kitchen island. "I'm going to see her, today. I need to get this over with." Jennifer turned to face me fully. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No," I said firmly. "This is something I need to do alone. But maybe you could drive me there? I'm not sure I trust myself to drive right now." Relief crossed her face at being included even peripherally. "Of course, whenever you're ready." After breakfast, I spent an hour writing down all the questions I wanted to ask Sophia. Why had she left? Why hadn't she come back sooner? Who was my biological father? Did she ever think about me? Did her other children know about me? The list grew until it filled 2 pages of my notebook. Then I got dressed with unusual care, as if preparing for a job interview rather than meeting my biological mother. I chose a simple blue dress that Taylor always said brought out my eyes. Sophia's eyes, I now realized. When I came downstairs, Jennifer was waiting in the kitchen, car keys in hand. "You look beautiful," she said softly. I managed a tight smile. I suggested the cafe on Main Street, neutral territory. "Good idea." She hesitated, then added, "I told her to wait for you there. I can drop you off and wait somewhere nearby, or I can come back later." "Wait nearby," I decided. "I don't know how long this will take or how I'll feel afterward." The drive downtown was silent, both of us lost in our own thoughts. As we approached the cafe, my anxiety spiked, and I found myself gripping the door handle tightly. "She'll be wearing a green blouse," Jennifer said as she pulled up to the curb. "She said she'd get a table by the window." I nodded, unable to speak around the tightness in my throat. "Valerie," Jennifer said as I opened the door. "Remember that no matter what happens in there, you have people who love you. You have a family." I looked back at her, this woman who had raised me as her own, despite having no obligation to do so. Whatever anger I felt about the deception, I couldn't deny the love behind it. "I know," I said. "I'll call you when I'm done." Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car and walked toward the cafe, about to meet the woman who had given me life, and then walked away without looking back. The cafe was busy with the midday rush, filled with the hum of conversation and the rich scent of coffee. I paused at the entrance, scanning the tables by the window, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. And then I saw her. Even from across the room, the resemblance was unmistakable. She had the same dark hair as me, though hers was shorter styled, in a bob that framed her face. She was staring down at her coffee cup, one finger tracing the rim nervously. She wore a green blouse as promised, and a simple gold necklace caught the light as she moved. For a moment, I considered turning around and leaving. The reality of this meeting suddenly felt overwhelming. But before I could retreat, she looked up and our eyes met. I saw the recognition in her face, followed by a flash of emotion too complex to name. She didn't wave or smile, just watched me with an intensity that held me in place. Taking a deep breath, I walked toward her table. As I approached, she stood up, her movements uncertain. "Valerie," she said, and hearing my name in her voice, a voice that sounded unnervingly similar to my own, sent a shiver through me. "Sophia," I replied, deliberately not calling her mom, or even by her first name alone. I needed to maintain some emotional distance. We stood awkwardly for a moment before she gestured to the chair across from her. "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would." I sat down, placing my bag on the empty chair beside me like a barrier. I almost didn't. A waitress approached, and I ordered a black coffee, needing something to hold on to. When she left, the silence between us grew heavy with unspoken words. Sophia broke it first. "You look so much like me," she said softly. More than I expected, even from the photos Jennifer shared. "I wouldn't know," I replied coolly. "I've only seen 2 pictures of you in my entire life." She flinched slightly at my tone, but nodded. "I deserve that. I deserve all your anger." "Why did you leave?" I asked, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. I hadn't planned to be so direct immediately, but sitting across from her, I couldn't contain the question that had haunted me since Jennifer's revelation. Sophia looked down at her hands, which were clasped tightly around her coffee cup. "The simple answer is that I was terrified and sick. The more complicated answer would take longer to explain." "I have time," I said as the waitress returned with my coffee. Sophia took a deep breath. "I was 22 in my final year at NYU. I was having an affair with one of my professors, Martin Kelly. He was 45, married with 2 teenagers. When I told him I was pregnant, he told me to take care of it. When I said I couldn't, he threatened to deny everything, to fail me, to make sure I never graduated." I listened without expression, trying to imagine this man, my biological father, who had so callously dismissed his responsibility. "I was too ashamed to tell my parents," Sophia continued. "They were very religious, very strict. They would have been devastated. So I went to Jennifer. She was always the responsible one, the one who fixed problems. So I was just a problem to be fixed," I asked, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. "No," Sophia said quickly. "No, never that. You were innocent in all of this. I was the one who made terrible choices." She paused. "Jennifer helped me hide the pregnancy. I moved in with her, dropped out of school. At first, I thought I'd give you up for adoption, but as the pregnancy progressed, I started to imagine keeping you, raising you myself." She took a sip of her coffee, her hand trembling slightly. "Then you were born, and everything changed. I can't fully explain what happened to me, except that it was like falling into a dark hole. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Every time you cried, I felt like I was failing you. I became convinced you would be better off without me." "So you just left in the middle of the night?" I pressed. "Didn't even say goodbye." Tears filled her eyes. "I know how it sounds. It was the worst thing I've ever done. But in that moment, in that state of mind, I truly believed I was doing what was best for you. I thought Jennifer would find you a good adoptive family, people who were ready to be parents. But she didn't," I pointed out. "She and David decided to raise me themselves." Sophia nodded. "When I found out years later, I was shocked. Grateful, but shocked. Jennifer had always said she didn't want children." This was news to me. I'd never heard Jennifer express anything but happiness about being a mother. "What happened after you left?" Sophia's expression darkened. "I went to California. I was not well. The postpartum depression evolved into something worse. I started self-medicating with alcohol, then drugs. For almost a decade, I was in and out of homelessness, rehabs, bad relationships. She pulled a small wallet from her purse and removed a sobriety chip. I've been clean and sober for 15 years. It took hitting rock bottom for me to get help to start dealing with what I'd done. And in all that time, you never thought to check on me, to see if I was okay. The hurt behind this question was raw, undisguised. I did, she admitted. About 12 years ago, I hired a private investigator to find out what had happened to you. That's when I learned Jennifer and David had raised you as their own. The PI got photos of you, a happy teenager apparently thriving. I told myself it was better not to disrupt your life. I processed this information, unsure how to feel about the fact that she had been watching me from afar. What changed? Why contact Jennifer now? 2 things, Sophia said. First, my daughter, your half-sister Lily, was diagnosed with a genetic heart condition last year. It's manageable, but the doctors asked about family medical history. I realized you had a right to know about potential health issues. She hesitated. And second, my husband Mark has been encouraging me for years to try to make amends. When I saw Jennifer's name online, it felt like a sign. Amends, I repeated flatly. Like in the 12 steps. She nodded. Part of recovery is making amends where possible, except when doing so would cause more harm. For years, I convinced myself that contacting you would fall into the causing harm category. But as my own children grew older, I started to question that assumption. If I were in your position, I would want to know the truth. I took a sip of my coffee, trying to organize my thoughts. Tell me about your family now. For the first time, Sophia's expression lightened. Mark and I have been married for 16 years. He's a software engineer. We met in a recovery meeting, actually. He's been my rock. We have 2 children. Lily is 14 and Noah is 12. She pulled out her phone and showed me a family photo, the same one I'd seen in the emails to Jennifer. Looking at these strangers who shared my blood, I felt a confusing mix of emotions, curiosity, resentment, and an unexpected pang of longing. Do they know about me? I asked. Yes, Sophia said. They've known for years that they have an older sister. They're actually very excited about the possibility of meeting you someday, but I've been careful not to create expectations. The thought of these children growing up knowing about me while I remained ignorant of their existence stung. And my biological father? Does he know you found me? Sophia's expression hardened. No, Martin died 8 years ago. Heart attack. He never knew about you as far as I'm aware. I never contacted him after I left New York. I absorbed this information with a strange sense of loss. The possibility of ever meeting my biological father was gone before I even knew he existed. I have a question for you, Sophia said cautiously. Do you want to have a relationship with me with my family? I would understand completely if the answer is no. I'm not here to disrupt your life or to suddenly play mother after 27 years of absence. I just wanted you to have the truth and to know that if you ever wanted to know me, the door is open. It was the question I'd been dreading because I didn't have an answer. Part of me wanted to reject her outright to punish her for her abandonment. Another part was undeniably curious about this woman who had given me life, about the half-siblings who shared my blood. I don't know, I answered honestly. This is all still very new. I need time to process everything. Sophia nodded, accepting this without pushing. Of course. I'm here for 3 days, but even after I go back to Seattle, we could stay in touch if you wanted. Emails, phone calls, whatever you're comfortable with. Or not at all. It's entirely up to you. A thought occurred to me. The genetic heart condition your daughter has? Should I be concerned about that? It's called long QT syndrome, Sophia explained. It's hereditary, but not everyone who carries the gene develops symptoms. It might be worth getting tested just to be safe. I can give you the information. As we continued talking, I found myself studying her mannerisms, noting the ways we were similar and different. She gestured with her hands when she spoke, just as I did. She had the same habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. Yet for all these similarities, she remained a stranger to me. The biological connection between us was undeniable, but it didn't automatically create the emotional bond that comes from years of shared experiences. After about an hour, I felt myself reaching emotional saturation. I needed space to process everything I'd learned. I should go, I said, gathering my bag. This has been a lot to take in. Sophia nodded, a flash of disappointment crossing her face before she masked it. I understand. Thank you for meeting with me, Valerie. It means more than I can express. As we both stood, there was an awkward moment where neither of us seemed to know how to say goodbye. A handshake felt too formal, a hug too intimate. In the end, we simply stood facing each other, acknowledging the biological connection between us without quite knowing what to do with it. I'll be at the hotel until Sunday, Sophia said. If you want to talk again before I leave, just let me know. I nodded, not committing one way or the other. I'll think about it. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt oddly hollow, as if the meeting had drained something from me. I texted Jennifer to pick me up, then sat on a bench outside, watching the familiar small-town life continue around me, oblivious to the seismic shifts in my personal world. When Jennifer pulled up, she didn't immediately ask how it went, giving me the space to process. It wasn't until we were halfway home that I finally broke the silence. She seems sincere, I said. In her regret, I mean. Jennifer nodded. I believe she is. People can change in 27 years. She told me about my biological father. He's dead. I'm sorry, Jennifer said softly. I shrugged, surprised by my own lack of emotion about this. Hard to mourn someone I never knew existed until yesterday. When we arrived home, David was waiting anxiously in the living room. He stood as we entered, his expression questioning. I met her, I said simply. And, he prompted gently. And I don't know how I feel about it yet, I admitted. I need some time. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Whatever you need, Val. We're here for you. I went upstairs to my bedroom, lying on my childhood bed, and staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of the swirling emotions inside me. Anger at the decades of deception. Curiosity about Sophia and her family. Gratitude for Jennifer and David's unwavering love despite the complicated circumstances. And beneath it all, a fundamental question that I wasn't sure would ever be fully answered. Who was I now that I knew the truth? That evening, as I sat on the porch swing, trying to sort through my thoughts, I heard the familiar sound of tires on gravel. Looking up, I was surprised to see Taylor's car pulling into the driveway. She stepped out with an overnight bag slung over her shoulder and a determined expression on her face. Taylor, I called, getting up from the swing. What are you doing here? I thought you weren't coming until the weekend. She strode up the path and pulled me into a fierce hug. After our call last night, I couldn't stop thinking about you facing all this alone. I rearranged some work stuff and hit the road. You shouldn't have to go through this by yourself. The unexpected appearance of my best friend, the one person in my life who had no stake in the family drama unfolding around me, broke something loose inside me. I found myself crying again, but these tears felt different, cleansing rather than despairing. Thank you, I whispered against her shoulder. I didn't realize how much I needed you here until this moment. Jennifer appeared in the doorway, her expression uncertain until she recognized Taylor. Taylor, what a surprise! Are you staying for dinner? I was just about to start cooking. If that's okay, Taylor replied, maintaining her arm around my shoulders. I thought Valerie might need some support. Of course, Jennifer said, relief evident in her voice. She had always liked Taylor, appreciating her steadying influence on me during our more turbulent college years. I'll set an extra place. Later that evening, after a dinner that was less strained than I'd expected, Taylor and I retreated to my room. I filled her in on my meeting with Sophia, grateful to have someone I could speak freely with, someone who had no personal connection to the situation. What's your honest impression? Taylor asked, sitting cross-legged on the bed while I paced the room. She seems genuine, I admitted. Remorseful. I believe she was probably suffering from severe postpartum depression when she left, but that doesn't erase 27 years of absence. No, it doesn't, Taylor agreed, but it might make it easier to understand. I sank down into my desk chair. The strangest part was seeing all these familiar mannerisms in a stranger. The way she talks with her hands, the way she tilts her head when she's thinking. It was like looking at an older version of myself. Are you curious about her other kids, your half-siblings? I nodded slowly. Yeah, I am. She showed me pictures. They look like me, especially the girl Lily. I paused. She has a heart condition that might be genetic. Sophia gave me information about getting tested. That's important health information, Taylor noted. Whatever you decide about having a relationship with Sophia, knowing your family medical history is valuable. I know, it's just, I struggled to articulate the complex emotions swirling inside me. Every piece of information I learn about her, about my biological father, about these siblings, it all shifts my understanding of who I am. It's like the ground keeps moving under my feet. Taylor considered this. Your identity isn't just about biology, Val. It's about your experiences, your choices, the people who've shaped your life. Jennifer and David may not be your biological parents, but they're the ones who raised you, who loved you. I know that, I said. Logically, I know that. But emotionally, it's complicated. Of course it is, Taylor agreed. And you're allowed to feel however you feel about all of this. Angry, curious, confused, it's all valid. The next morning, I woke to a text from Sophia. I hope I didn't overwhelm you yesterday. I understand if you need space. If you'd like to meet again before I leave, just let me know. If not, I respect your decision. Either way, I wanted to share contact information for my doctor regarding the long QT testing. Take care, Valerie. I showed the message to Taylor over breakfast while Jennifer and David were out running errands, giving us space, I suspected. What do you think? I asked. Should I see her again? Taylor took a bite of toast, considering. I can't answer that for you, Val, but I will say this. You might regret not taking the opportunity while she's here. You can always decide later that you don't want a relationship with her, but this might be your best chance to get answers to your questions face to face. Her words resonated with me. Despite my anger and hurt, I did have more questions for Sophia, and as Taylor pointed out, this might be my only chance to ask them in person. After breakfast, I called a local therapist Jennifer had recommended, a specialist in family trauma and adoption issues. To my surprise, she offered to see me that afternoon for an emergency consultation. Taylor dropped me off at the appointment, promising to pick me up in an hour. Dr. Morgan, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a direct manner, listened attentively as I explained the situation. When I finished, she nodded thoughtfully. What you're experiencing is a form of identity disruption, she explained. The narrative you've built about yourself has been fundamentally altered, and it's natural to feel unmoored by that. How do I move forward? I asked. I don't know if I want Sophia in my life, but I'm curious about my half-siblings. And I'm still angry with Jennifer and David, but I also understand why they did what they did. There's no rush to make permanent decisions, Dr. Morgan assured me. Right now, focus on processing your emotions and gathering information. You might find it helpful to keep a journal recording your thoughts and feelings as they come. She suggested that if I did decide to meet with Sophia again, I should be clear about my boundaries and expectations. Remember that you're in control of this situation now, she emphasized. You decide what kind of relationship, if any, you want with Sophia and her family. The session was brief, but clarifying. As Taylor drove me home, I made my decision. I'm going to meet with Sophia again tomorrow, I announced. There are things I still need to ask her. Taylor squeezed my hand. Do you want me to come with you? I considered this, grateful for the offer. Maybe not during the meeting itself, but would you mind being nearby, just in case? Of course, she said without hesitation. Whatever you need. That evening, I sent a text to Sophia suggesting we meet the following morning at a park near her hotel. It was a public place, but more private than the cafe had been. She responded immediately, agreeing to the time and place. When I told Jennifer and David about my decision, they both expressed support, though I could see the anxiety in Jennifer's eyes. Do you mind if Taylor stays another night? I asked. She's been really helpful. Of course not, Jennifer said quickly. She's welcome to stay as long as you need her. That night, as Taylor and I talked late into the evening, I realized something important, regardless of the biological truths I was discovering. I already had a family. Not just Jennifer and David, but friends like Taylor, who showed up when I needed them most. The next morning dawned clear and cool, a perfect spring day. I dressed casually, but deliberately, trying to project a confidence I didn't entirely feel. Taylor drove me to the park, promising to wait on a bench with a book close enough to see me, but far enough to give me privacy. Sophia was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench overlooking a small pond. She wore jeans and a simple white blouse, looking more relaxed than she had in the cafe. She smiled tentatively as I approached. Thank you for meeting me again, she said as I sat down beside her. I have more questions, I said directly, and I realized this might be my only chance to ask them face to face. She nodded. Ask me anything. I promise to be completely honest. And so I did. For the next 2 hours, I asked about everything. Her childhood, her relationship with my biological father, her life after she left her recovery from addiction, her current family. I asked about my half-siblings in detail, learning that Lily was an artist like me, while Noah was more interested in science and computers. Sophia answered everything openly without defensiveness, occasionally wiping away tears when touching on particularly painful memories. When I asked if she had ever regretted her decision to leave me, she didn't hesitate. Every day, she said, her voice breaking. It's the great regret of my life. I've made peace with many of my mistakes, but leaving you is something I'll never fully forgive myself for. As our conversation wound down, I found myself facing the question I'd been avoiding. What kind of relationship, if any, did I want with this woman and her family moving forward? I don't know if I can ever see you as my mother, I said finally. Jennifer is my mom in all the ways that matter, but I am curious about you, about Lily and Noah. I think I'd like to get to know all of you slowly. The hope that bloomed on Sophia's face was tempered with caution. I would like that very much, Valerie, at whatever pace feels right to you. We exchanged contact information, not just phone numbers and emails, but social media accounts as well. Before we parted, Sophia reached into her bag and pulled out a small wrapped package. I brought this for you, she said. You don't have to open it now if you don't want to. I accepted the package, feeling its weight in my hands. Thank you. As we stood to leave, Sophia hesitated, then asked, Would it be okay if I hugged you goodbye? It's completely fine if you're not comfortable with that. I considered the request surprised to find that I wasn't opposed to it. Okay. The embrace was brief, but not awkward. A tentative connection between two people with a complicated shared history. I'll email you when I get back to Seattle, Sophia said as we pulled apart. And maybe we could set up a video call sometime if you'd like to meet Mark and the kids virtually. I'd like that, I said, realizing as I spoke that it was true. When I returned to Taylor, who was pretending to read while obviously watching us from afar, I felt lighter somehow, as if some of the confusion and anger I'd been carrying had begun to dissipate. How did it go? She asked, closing her book. I showed her the package Sophia had given me. Let's find out. We sat on a nearby bench, and I carefully unwrapped the gift. Inside was a small leather-bound journal with my name embossed on the cover. A note was tucked inside. Valerie. I started keeping a journal during my recovery. It helped me make sense of my thoughts and feelings when everything seemed overwhelming. I thought this might help you process everything that's happening now. Whatever you decide about our relationship going forward, I want you to know that I am proud of the strong, thoughtful woman you've become. That is entirely due to Jennifer and David's loving guidance, and I will be forever grateful to them for giving you what I couldn't. With love and hope. Sophia tucked behind the note was a family photo. Sophia, her husband Mark, and my half-siblings Lily and Noah, with their address and phone number written on the back. She seems to really understand boundaries, Taylor observed. That's a good sign. I nodded, tracing my finger over the embossed letters of my name on the journal. Yeah, it is. When we returned to the house, Jennifer was waiting anxiously in the kitchen. How did it go? She asked, trying to sound casual and failing completely. I set the journal on the counter. It was good. We talked a lot. I think I'd like to get to know her and her family slowly. The relief on Jennifer's face was palpable, though she tried to hide it. That's wonderful, sweetheart, if that's what you want. It is, I confirmed. But I want you to know something important. I took her hands in mine, looking directly into her eyes. You are my mother. That hasn't changed, and it won't change. Biology isn't what makes a family. Love and commitment do. You and Dad chose me. You built your lives around me. That means everything. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. Oh, Valerie, I've been so afraid of losing you. You won't, I promised. I'm still angry about the deception, and it's going to take time for me to fully process everything. But I understand why you did what you did, and I know you did it out of love. When David came home from work, I repeated these assurances to him. The relief on his face mirrored Jennifer's, and I realized how terrified they both had been that this revelation would destroy our family. That evening, the four of us, Jennifer, David, Taylor, and I, had dinner together. The tension of the past few days had eased, replaced by a cautious optimism. We weren't past the crisis entirely, but we had found a path forward. After dinner, I excused myself to my room, bringing Sophia's journal with me. Opening to the first blank page, I began to write. My name is Valerie Henderson. For 27 years, I believed I knew exactly who I was and where I came from. Now I know that my story is more complicated than I ever imagined. I am the daughter of Jennifer and David Henderson, who chose to love me and raise me as their own. I am also the biological daughter of Sophia Winters, who gave me life but couldn't be the mother I needed. These truths exist side by side. They don't cancel each other out. They form the complete picture of who I am. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of my childhood home, helping Jennifer prepare dinner for a gathering that would have seemed impossible half a year ago. Sophia, Mark, Lily, and Noah were driving up from New York City, where they were spending a week's vacation to join us for a family dinner. The past months had been a journey of healing and discovery. Weekly therapy sessions had helped me process my feelings about the deception and the revelation. Gradual email exchanges and video calls with Sophia and her family had evolved into a tentative but growing relationship. And my bond with Jennifer and David, though tested by the truth, had ultimately strengthened as we rebuilt our relationship on a foundation of honesty. "Are you nervous?" Jennifer asked, glancing at me as she chopped vegetables for a salad. "A little," I admitted. "It's the first time we'll all be together in person." In the months since Sophia's visit, I had flown to Seattle once to meet her family face to face. It had been an emotional but positive experience, especially connecting with Lily, who shared not only my features, but also my passion for art. "It's going to be fine," Jennifer assured me, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "We've all come a long way." She wasn't wrong. The woman who had been so terrified of losing me that she'd kept my origins secret for 27 years had found the courage to support my relationship with my biological mother. And Sophia, who had once been so overwhelmed by motherhood that she'd fled in the night, was now cautiously embracing a relationship with the daughter she'd left behind. As for me, I had discovered that identity is not a fixed thing, but a continuing story shaped by biology, experience, choice, and love. The DNA test I'd taken had confirmed my genetic relationship to Sophia, and more importantly, had revealed that I did carry the gene for long QT syndrome, though I showed no symptoms. Regular cardiac checkups were now part of my life, a tangible connection to my biological heritage. The doorbell rang, and David called from the living room that he would get it. I took a deep breath, wiping my hands on a kitchen towel. "Ready?" Jennifer asked. I nodded. "Ready." As we walked into the living room together, I saw them, Sophia and Mark, Lily, and Noah, standing somewhat awkwardly just inside the door. Sophia's eyes found mine immediately, her smile tentative but hopeful. "Welcome," I said, stepping forward to greet them. "I'm so glad you could come." And I meant it. These people were part of my story now, not replacing the family who had raised me, but adding new chapters to the narrative of my life. The dinner that followed was initially stilted with careful conversations and occasional awkward silences. But as the evening progressed, the atmosphere gradually warmed. Lily showed me her sketchbook, revealing a talent that eerily mirrored my own at her age. Noah, initially shy, opened up when David mentioned his interest in astronomy, revealing a knowledge of constellations that impressed us all. Watching Jennifer and Sophia interact was perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the evening. These sisters, estranged for decades because of me, were carefully rebuilding their own relationship. There was still caution there, still unresolved feelings, but also a genuine effort to move forward. After dessert, as we all sat in the living room with coffee and tea, Sophia cleared her throat nervously. "I have something I'd like to say," she began, looking around at all of us. "6 months ago, I came here hoping for forgiveness, but expecting rejection. What I've found instead is something I never dared to hope for. A chance to know my daughter as the remarkable woman she's become, to reconnect with my sister, and to bring our families together." She turned to Jennifer and David. "What you did for Valerie, raising her with such love, such devotion, I will be grateful for that every day of my life. You gave her the stability and love I couldn't provide." Jennifer reached for David's hand, visibly moved. "She made it easy to love her," she said simply. Sophia then looked at me. "And Valerie, your generosity in allowing me into your life and getting to know Lily and Noah, in giving all of us a chance to become a family in our own unique way. It's more than I deserve, and I'm so deeply thankful." I felt tears prickling behind my eyes, but managed a smile. I've learned that family isn't just about biology or legal documents. It's about love and choice and forgiveness. And sometimes, if we're lucky, it's about second chances too. Later that night, after Sophia and her family had returned to their hotel, with plans to visit again before they flew back to Seattle, I sat on the porch swing with Jennifer, watching the stars emerge in the clear night sky. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "That was a lot." I nodded, leaning my head against her shoulder, just as I had done countless times growing up. "I am. It's strange and complicated, but also right somehow. Like pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together." She put her arm around me. "You know, when Sophia left you with me all those years ago, I was terrified. I had no idea how to be a mother. But from the moment I held you, something changed in me. You became my whole world." "And you became mine," I said simply. "That hasn't changed. It never will." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, rocking gently on the swing. "So, what happens now?" Jennifer finally asked. "With all of us, I mean." I considered this question one I'd been pondering for months. "We keep building, one step at a time, one day at a time. It won't always be easy, but I think it's worth it. For all of us." The future stretched before me, complex but full of possibility. I had two mothers now, one who had chosen me and raised me, and one who had given me life and was now choosing to know me. I had a father whose love had never wavered despite the absence of biological connection. I had siblings who shared my DNA and were eager to be part of my life. Most importantly, I had myself, Valerie Henderson, no longer defined solely by the story I had been told about my origins, but by the truth I now knew and the choices I would make going forward. The journey hadn't been easy, and there would undoubtedly be more challenges ahead. But as I sat there under the stars, with the woman who had loved me as her own from the beginning,